The Republican and Democratic national conventions are here. They're the single biggest spectacles in American politics, costing tens of millions of dollars and drawing thousands of delegates, journalists, donors, political operatives, protesters, and security personnel to their host cities. But if we already know who the party nominees will be, why do we have conventions? Many Americans think we pick our elected leaders by voting, but choosing a presidential nominee isn't that simple. It's a weird mashup of tradition, state laws, party rules, and federal regulations. To understand how things got this way, we have to go back in time. The Founding Fathers didn't want political parties, but they sprang up anyway. And for decades, party caucuses in Congress would pick the presidential nominees. But in the 1830s, party and elected leaders from the states started holding conventions to pick their nominees. The average voter? He, and it was always a he then, didn't really have a role. But by the turn of the 20th century, a few states began to experiment by holding preliminary elections to directly pick delegates to represent voters at the conventions. The first truly modern primary election was conceived in 1910 by Oregon. Other states followed, and primaries rose in importance. But mainly they were a way for candidates to prove their political popularity to the party insiders who would make the ultimate decision at the conventions. In 1960, for example, Democrat John F. Kennedy wooed the reluctant Democratic Party by winning a string of primaries. The next big turning point for conventions came in 1968, one of the most turbulent years in American history. The Vietnam War was raging. The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. led to riots in cities across the nation. Robert F. Kennedy was gunned down in the midst of his own run for president. Amid bloody anti-war protests outside the Democratic Convention in Chicago, Hubert Humphrey gained the presidential nomination, even though he hadn't won a single primary. Democratic Party activists decided this was indefensible. They successfully pushed to rewrite party rules to give voters a bigger say in picking the nominee. Every state would hold either a primary or a caucus open to voters. The Republicans followed suit. Ever since, the candidate with the most delegates in the primaries and caucuses has been each party's nominee. That's a win for democracy, but it's also leached a lot of the excitement from conventions. They are now more likely to be 4-day infomercials for the presumptive nominee, planned and scripted down to the minute. So really, the main purpose of the modern convention is to allow the parties to make an extended case to voters, fire up their activists, and woo donors.